It's time for Come and Talk It with your host, Michael Cargill, brought to you by Texas Law Shield. Over the last decade, Michael has championed and supported the rights of law-abiding Texans to own and use firearms. He is the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, a veteran of the United States Army, and has achieved national exposure in such prestigious media outlets such as Forbes Magazine, Fox Business News, CNN Money, AOL, BBC World News, Huffington Post, and the New York Times. Cargill vigorously defends lawful gun ownership in this country without regard to party politics. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
Good day, Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world. Let's praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. All right, so today we're going to talk about, the charges were dropped against a man who purchased a gun for Kyle Rittenhouse. We'll talk about that and talk about what a straw purchase is. We want to make sure people understand that, so you can avoid getting a felony for buying a gun for someone else. I also want to talk about Florida. A Florida police officer grabbed a fellow female police officer by the throat. We're going to talk about that. And then I want to talk about Fort Worth. Near Fort Worth, there was a hostage situation that took place yesterday. And looks like the FBI, the specialized team, went in there and took this guy out and released all of the hostages. The hostages were released unscathed, and the hostage taker was killed and taken out. And then also we have inside the studio Jenai Aragona-Hales. She's running for Congress. Welcome to Jenai. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm excited.
Been here in a while.
I'm excited, Jenai. That's right. It's been a while since you've been inside the studio, but you're running for Congress. Also, we're going to talk about that in a second, but check a look at this video here. It's a video of Florida, where a police sergeant grabs a fellow police officer, a female, by the throat doing a traffic stop that they were arresting another gentleman. It seems like the situation was under control, and it seemed like the police sergeant decided I guess he was escalating the situation. And the female officer grabbed him by the belt there, pulled him back to kind of diffuse it, to try to calm the situation down a little bit. And he got upset. He turned around. He grabbed her by the throat and pushed her up against another vehicle. Yeah, there's something about that. If you do that to one of your fellow co-workers, I'm willing to bet he does that to his wife, his spouse. If you grab your fellow co-worker by the throat there, in a heat of rage, you'll definitely do that to a spouse. So you might want to check his wife's face, neck, arms, hands, and all that good kind of stuff. Something else is going on there, because that was way too quick, the way he responded there, and he got way too angry. It's not that serious. This guy was already in handcuffs. He's already in the back of a vehicle. There's no reason getting upset and taking things personal. Let's take this guy that he's already in handcuffs. He's in the back of the vehicle, take him to jail, and let the judge and the jury decide what they're going to do with this guy. You can't serve justice on the side of the road there. So hopefully the Florida Police Department, where this took place, I'm hoping that they're going to take care of this situation. And I hope the female officer doesn't get any, repercussions for that. Because usually when you go against the blue there, you do something against the norm, you tend to take some heat for it. So hopefully that does not happen. And the sergeant, gets all the heat. So we'll see what happens. That story will hopefully follow with that. But I'm excited. I want to talk to Jenai about her run for Congress. I'm excited about that. You're running for U.S. Congress.
Yes, U.S. Congress.
Washington, D.C.
Yes, District 35.
District 35. And is this a new seat?
It was Lloyd Doggett's seat, and because of redistricting, he's going to another district. So there's no incumbent.
All right, so Lloyd Doggett has vacated the seat. He's moving to a different area. Mm-hmm. So this is an open seat, and it's up for grabs.
Yes, and on the left, it will be Greg Casar has filed to run.
Okay, and I'm willing to bet, because he's vacated the seat. I wonder if it's because he's been drawn out of the district, or they perceive this to be more of a conservative seat. I'm wondering how it's looking. What are your advisors saying?
I don't think the demographics suggest that it's a more conservative seat.
No.
It's gonna be... we think there's a good shot, because Republicans are polling plus 11 in every race.
Okay.
So we think there's a good shot. And Greg Casar is not very well liked in Austin due to being on city council, and he kind of spearheaded all the, the homeless ban, and defunding the police, things like that. So
Yeah, because this no, people are very upset of how the homeless situation was handled.
hmm
Since he's been on city council, they're upset. The defunding of the police, the reason we're in the situation that we're in today, while we have had so many of homicides in Austin, more homicides in 2021 than any year ever on record.
yeah,
And no one's saying that. They can't say that enough. Austin has had more homicides in 2021 than any year ever on record.
yeah.
Ever. That's pretty crazy.
He was Greg Casar was also behind, when I still had my store. He was behind the paid sick leave for hospitality workers and restaurant. Yeah,
Okay.
they rescinded that because it was a complete mess.
All right. So Janai's running for Congress, for U.S. Congress. And Janai, you owned your own business. Tell people who don't know you about you. What did you do? What's your background? And how do you get to where you are today?
Sure. Uh, I currently have a real estate license, and I've been doing that licensed for 3 years now. And prior to that, I was a business owner and investor, which is what prompted me to get my real estate license. So we owned a chain of Domino's pizza stores along the Texas-Mexico border for a substantial amount of time, and they were the top stores in the country. And I came to Austin because I had secured the rights to for the entire state for a new franchise, and that was the cafe I had 2 blocks from the state capitol. And it was after having my cancer that I decided I wanted to go on a different path, and so I sold it right before COVID and got my real estate license, and love it. I've been doing very well.
Nice, nice. Okay. And so, and how's the cancer? Is that it's under control? How's that doing? How's that
Oh,
going?
I'm completely well. I'm 3 years cancer free now.
Nice.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah, doing
Three
really well.
years.
3 years
It's been
now.
that
It's
long?
been that long. I know.
Jeez, time flies. Let me tell you. Wow, cancer free, 3 years. Oh,
Yeah,
congratulations!
yeah.
All right, and then you also you had a store downtown Austin. What was that store?
That
Like,
was Cafe Aragona. That
okay,
was the franchise that I had. Um, and as I said, I sold it right before COVID.
nice. All right. So we're talking with Jenai Aragona. She's running for U.S. Congress. That's right, folks. U.S. Congress. And I'm telling you, we need to help Janai out and support her because we need someone that's going to help us stand up for the Second Amendment in Congress because this next session, in Congress is going to be really important. So if we don't maintain or gain control of the House, if we don't gain control of the Senate, uh, because the anti-gun establishment holds the White House there. If we don't gain control, then we're most likely going to lose something, of our rights there. So we're definitely going to want to maintain our Second Amendment rights, and so we need to support. This is a very important election to support candidates going forward because this midterm election is so important. I cannot stress that enough on what happens because the ATF, they're coming out with these new things they're trying to do as far as AR pistols. So if you don't say something and stand up now and go vote and support candidates who are going to support us, then we're going to lose some rights. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Coley Noir, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back and we're talking with Jenai Aragona-Hales. She's running for Congress, U.S. Congress. And so, Jenai, tell me, why. Well, first, give me the layout of this district. Where's this district? How can I put this in my head here so I can figure out where it is in Austin?
Sure. So District 35, it starts on Rainey in Austin, and it's pretty much all east of Rainey, and it goes as far north as 290. It's kind of like a half circle, and it goes, I think, as far as Manor, and then it comes back down, goes down I-35, so it's through Buda, Kyle, San Marcos, and then it's parts of San Antonio, pretty much central and south San Antonio. Is this on good? Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then tell me also, so why are you running for this district? Why this district? Why Congress?
Sure. Well, aside from the obvious, as you know me, I'm very pro Second Amendment, having been assaulted many years ago. All the other various things going on in our country. But this particular district, I think it's a very important district because if you look at that area, that's where Tesla is. That's where this new Samsung plant is going to be. There's a ton of growth out there with these huge corporations going out there. And I think it's extremely important to have someone who's very pro-business, not someone who's going to want to heavily tax these people or constrict them to where they can't grow. I think we need someone very pro-business in that district to help support that growth because Tesla, Elon Musk is one of the largest property holders in the state now. He's purchased a ton of land out that way. That area is just exploding because of all the development going on. So I think it's very important to have someone who's very pro-business out there.
Yeah, I think that's going to be good for Texas. Definitely.
It is, definitely.
Good for employment and everything. We're definitely going to. You're not going to have a problem getting a job.
No, there's a ton of jobs from just those two alone. Those two companies alone, not to mention the others.
All right. I also want to talk about the Oath Keepers. Man, Zach. Yeah. Man, Oath Keepers. So the founder of Oath Keepers, I guess this guy was on the run for something that happened in January at the Capitol, January the 6th there. So the FBI located the Oath Keeper's head, Stuart Rhodes, and to arrest him for a seditious conspiracy, is what they're calling it. And Rhodes was living in a Granbury, Texas, in that area there, but quietly moved out months ago. He opened up a P.O. box, and his physical whereabouts were really unclear for weeks until he started, guess what? Selling his guns online. And that's how they caught him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this guy apparently started selling his guns online. He was, hiding out, hiding from the police. And that's how they tracked him down. So, Rhodes apparently bought like 22,500 guns and gun equipment between December the 30th and January the 4th as he traveled to D.C. And then between January 10th and 19th, he spent another 17,500 in guns, gun parts, and equipment, totaling about 40,000 in days immediately prior to the January 6th day there. And apparently on December the 30th of 2020, Rose bought 2 night vision devices, 1 gun sight for $7,000 and shipped them to an individual in Virginia near D.C., where they arrived January the 4th. He bought 4,500 in Mississippi in gun equipment there, including sights, mounts, optic plates, magazines, and other gun parts. Man, so the FBI was all over this guy. January the 1st and 2nd, 2021, Rose spent approximately $5,000 on firearms and related equipment, including a shotgun, scope, magazine, sight, optics, bipod, mount, a case, ammunition, and gun cleaning supplies. So he bought a lot of stuff prior to getting, to D.C. there. And, we all know that guns are illegal in D.C.
Yeah, and that's very interesting. And it also reminds me of basically the testimony from the FBI assistant director when she was asked pretty straightforward, were there any FBI agents involved in January 6th?
Mm.
And her answer was, I can't answer that question.
Mm.
She was asked, were any FBI agents involved in the violence on January 6th? I can't answer that question.
Mm.
Were any FBI agents involved in the planning of this event? I can't answer that question. Yeah. Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Very.
Tells me that there's possibly some FBI agents in the crowd there that's helping the crowd, get them all motivated to run into the building there.
Yeah. Do you remember the governor of Michigan, right? Wasn't it? The kidnapping plot.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
the governor?
yes, correct.
Gretchen
So there
Whitmer.
were Whitmer. Yeah, there were 12 or 13 people involved in the kidnapping plot,
Okay.
and I believe it was 7 of them were FBI agents,
Mm.
Oh, wow.
or somewhere around half.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, so it's almost seems like that's more like the FBI was trying to kidnap the governor.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You can go either way with that story. Was the
Mhm.
FBI that was doing it, or was it someone else?
Yeah, there were quite a few.
Wow, that's crazy. So this guy here, and he has a patch over his eye. You know that?
He's a pirate.
Yeah. Well, and you know how he got that patch?
No.
Apparently, he got that patch from a negligent gun discharge. So he negligently, shot himself in the face when he was younger.
Well, yeah. Sometimes if you have the barrel pointed
At
kind
your
of-
face?
even if it's not pointed at your face,
Right.
but the explosion happens in your face, even if the bullet doesn't hit you
Mm.
directly, then
Right.
that explosion will still just harm you in some way,
Mm. Mm.
and that's no fun.
No fun at all. Yeah.
Now he's missing an eye, huh?
Yeah, so that apparently that happened when he was younger. So I think it was right around like 1993. He dropped a loaded handgun and it shot him in the face, blinding him in his left eye.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So got to be careful.
Ow.
That's right.
You only get 2 eyes,
Gun safety.
except for your third eye.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Maintain control of your firearm at all times. Keep the gun pointed down range at all times. Don't point the gun at anything you want to kill or destroy. Those safety rules are there for a reason. Got to be careful. All right. So also, I want to talk about the Austin Police Department. We talked about the bad cop situation. That was the one in Florida, where a video shows a police sergeant grabbing a fellow officer by her throat. Bad cop, no donut for him. And then there's a good cop situation where an Austin police officer responded to a scene where it was on Christmas Eve. This happened on Christmas Eve, where originally it was a call that went out. It was a car accident, and this happened not too far away from my house, actually. So I was actually listening to this as it played out. And so the call went out. There was a car accident at a major intersection. And so before the police got there, I guess it took them, they're just really not responding to accidents nowadays. So because they just don't have enough police officers out there to respond to that. Plus Christmas Eve, a lot of people were firing rounds in the air. And so there are a lot of things going on. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on Christmas Eve.
Why would you do that?
It's tradition.
That's right. It's tradition. We all do it. Everyone does it. And so, so the police didn't respond right away to the car accident. And so eventually, after a while, apparently the guy got out of the vehicle with an AR-15, start firing rounds in the air in the intersection. And he makes his way down the highway, and another 911 call goes out. And then take a listen to this video here.
Also involved. I got his firearm. Hey, go gloves. I'm covering. Put him in cuffs. We're starting medical.
All right, I want you to, and I want to go back a little bit because I want you to hear the 911 call and how that goes out, because one of the first things that in Austin area, I don't know if you know this or not, they ask you key things. What do you need? And they ask you certain things. So take a listen to this.
Austin 911. Do you need police, fire, EMS, or mental health services?
Police.
To what location?
There is a guy at 180. There's an accident at 183 under the Cameron Road, under the bridge.
On the eastbound.
And there's a guy walking around with a gun in his hand, man.
Is he white?
An assault rifle.
Yes, sir. Is he
He's
white?
Hispanic, I think.
And see, I want you to listen to that, because whenever something's happening, and I know you get, kind of caught up in the situation and what's going on, but you need to be prepared when you're talking to a 911 dispatcher to give them the information that they need. They're asking you, what do you need? Do you need, fire, EMS, police, mental health services? What exactly do you need? And so you got to be prepared to say that. I need police, or I need paramedics. I need police and paramedics. Tell them what you need. And then tell them what's going on, what exactly is happening. Then tell them where it is that is actually happening. Give them the address. Give them a good description of the person. What's their description? Are they white? Are they black? Are they Hispanic? Because you can be white Hispanic, you can be black Hispanic. Give them the information they need. What color clothing are they wearing? And so this officer responded, and this officer did a great job, by the way. So the officer got there. This guy's walking down the highway with the AR-15. He had been firing shots in the air, or just randomly firing shots at whatever. And so the officer asked him to drop the gun. He didn't respond. He didn't drop the gun, and he fired and stopped him and stopped that threat, and initially, neutralized the threat and took charge of the situation. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Jack Jones here, and I get my gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean, or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you, without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're talking with Jenai Aragona-Hales. She's running for U.S. Congress. We're also talking about the gun news all around the country here. Talking about the shooting that happened in Fort Worth, the hostage situation there. Man, Zach, let me tell you. So on Saturday in Fort Worth, there was a hostage situation. Did you know about this thing?
A little bit. Is it a Jewish synagogue?
Yeah, it was at a Jewish synagogue, and they were live streaming doing their services.
Facebook cut their feed too.
Oh, I bet. And so live streaming, all of a sudden this thing comes, and it always happens like that lately, because a lot of your churches, your places of worship, a lot of people are at home, because of Omicron, COVID, whatever. And so they're live streaming so they can, my sister does it. She sits in church on Sunday and, watches it on YouTube. And so this is how they found out that, man, there's a shooting taking place, hostage situation. And so this happened on Saturday. And the FBI, it took a little while to get their team in, because they have a 100-member FBI hostage rescue team, a Tier 1 operation that actually brought this situation to a close. And I'm sure these people were all around the country. They came out of Virginia, other places. This is on a Saturday. So they get together, get to their destination, wherever state that they were in, get on a flight, helicopter, plane, whatever, get here, to Texas, and then get together, get familiar with the situation, get updated, get a little map so they can see the outline of the building, what they're looking at. You got to look at that. And then, once it gets dark, you can look at the, heat signatures, of everyone inside, and then figure out where the bad guy is. So if you see the bad guy, with his or her heat signature, and then they can actually get in, take this guy out, and then free the hostages. And that's basically what happened. And so that took place on Saturday, just like it's supposed to take place. Let the hostages free. They got it unscathed, and we take the bad guy out. And apparently, I'm trying to see what information we're getting out of this, who this guy was.
So he was a Pakistani neuroscientist, he was demanding the release of a Pakistani neuroscientist who had tried to kill U.S. Army officers in Afghanistan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's a really bad guy there.
Uh-huh.
And he was a British national. Interesting. So, I'm glad they took him out. In Texas, it really happened back in 2015, where the state of Texas said, okay, finally we need to do something in Texas to help churches, places of worship out. They said, what we're going to do is we're going to allow the congregation to be security. They don't have to hire a police officer, don't have to hire a security officer. What they can do, the church, the place of worship, can name members in the congregation as security. They can carry a gun, get a license. They can't wear a uniform that says security on it, but they can, be church security and defend the church. Because if you think about it, when it comes to your places of worship, your churches, usually the minister, preacher, rabbi is that person that's facing the door where everyone walks in, and everyone else, has their back to the door. So you don't see where the bad guy is when the bad guy comes in. So, it's good to have your security. And a lot of churches have started doing this. And so we need to take this serious. because you're very vulnerable there when it comes to places of worship. So, your rabbi, whether it's a synagogue, whether it's a church, Church of God in Christ, your, AME church or whatever, or Catholic church, you got to take security very serious because bad guys, hey, they don't care. They're assuming that people are there to pray, to worship the Lord. They're not thinking about their personal safety. So we need to take that a little serious nowadays. And I'm glad the state of Texas changed something back in 2015 because of the Sulling Springs church shooting. Because of that shooting there, they said, okay, we're going to change our law, going to allow the congregation to be be their own security there. They don't have to hire a police officer, security officer, and they could be church security. And so they removed that from the section of the law where it was and treated churches like any other business. So you walk into a church, if you have a license, you can nowadays, as of 2022 here we are in January 2022, with or without a license, you can carry a gun inside of a church legally. So it's no longer a no gun zone. I've seen a lot of comments online about that. They're saying, hey, church is a no gun zone. No, not really. Unless the church decides to post a sign that says guns are, not allowed. They post a 30.05 sign or some other gun buster sign for constitutional carry. If they post any other sign for constitutional carry, then you can't carry. If you're a license holder, they post a 30.06 sign, a 07 sign, then you cannot carry. But guess what? As a license holder, and you go into that church, if you go into the church and you don't see the sign, you don't notice it, you're a license holder, then they have to tell you verbally to leave. They have to give you verbal notice. So, and I kind of like that. We were talking earlier, I guess we were talking during the break about, to go to a transition here. I hate to do this. We're talking about bars, going into bars that on 6th Street, 5th Street, 4th Street, whatever, East, West, the warehouse district. And I'm surprised. It shocks me even today. Here we are January 2022, and you still have a lot of your, what I consider bars are not really bars. They're restaurants. Which means that they change your liquor license from a bar to a restaurant so you can legally take your gun inside there. And I'm always shocked by this. So I always, even today, pull up the TABC app there, or I pull up their website, and I would verify that a particular establishment that I'm getting ready to walk into, if I can carry my gun inside. And I always carry my gun inside. Every single restaurant, that I go into, which to me, they look like bars, but their liquor license says they're a restaurant. It's amazing to me. Right, Zach?
Yeah. You got to check.
Yeah. You just check and verify. And then if you don't see it, you're a license holder, you don't see the sign, guess what? I walk inside, I'm doing a good job of concealing my handgun. They'll never know I'm carrying a gun because I'm doing a good job of concealing it. If for some reason they figure out I have a gun, they tell me to leave, I leave, there's no punishment. If they don't say anything to me, they call the police, and the police show up while I'm inside that bar that's actually a restaurant according to their liquor license. And the police officer tells me to leave, I leave, there's no punishment. If I refuse to leave, then it becomes criminal trespass, which is a Class A misdemeanor. If you do that and they have any type of sign at all that's posted and you're carrying on the Texas constitutional carry law and you bypass the sign, then you are committing a crime. So definitely you need to know what the laws are. And I like that I can go into a lot of our drinking establishments and actually carry my firearm.
And you can now drink too.
Yeah, and I can actually drink. I can be at least 0.08 as a license holder as of September the 1st of 2021. With a license, you can be 0.08. Without a license on the constitutional carry law, you cannot be intoxicated at all. So,
Yeah, it used to be reversed.
It used to be the other way. That's right. It used to be if you had a license, you couldn't be intoxicated. So they flipped the script a little bit. They changed it around on us a little bit.
And if you didn't have a license, then you could be intoxicated.
Yeah. So
But
now
they've switched that up
Yeah.
in favor of the license holder, which, I mean, it's kind of smarter that way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Jenai, so
Yes.
tell me, what are some of the things that you're interested in as far as Congress? What are some of your pet peeves? What do you think you want to focus on, you think?
Gosh, there's so many.
Right.
Definitely want to protect Second Amendment rights, right? I am not for any vaccine mandates. That's not something I think that needs to be done. want to make sure that the country is never shut down again.
I don't think we can survive another shutdown.
I don't think so.
No.
And I really don't know why we did it in the first place.
Businesses are not going to be able to survive that.
No, a great example of that is, as I said, I sold my business um, right before COVID, and
And you were lucky.
I know the timing. I mean, I didn't know anything, but yeah, the timing worked out perfectly. But um, I sold my business to a couple from California, and they had moved here. His parents were from Vietnam. That was their dream to own a business,
Mm.
and set them up with a great business.
That was
And
a thriving business.
thriving
Yeah.
business, yeah. And 6 months later, they emailed me saying that they were asking me for advice because they were going to have to shut down permanently.
Mm.
And, I told them at the time, that was when we were heavily locked down. I said, unless you can go to people, i.e., go strictly delivery, because that business was walk-in, foot traffic type, you're not going to be able to make it. And they didn't know how to make that transition, so they shut down
Oh,
permanently.
no.
They lost all that money that they paid.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
no.
when you say businesses won't be able to survive, it's the small businesses that wouldn't be able to survive in that climate that they've created, and that's part of the plan,
I
right?
know, it's terrible. Another
Mm.
thing, Biden has been talking about getting rid of the 1031 exchange for investors,
Mm.
which is something that really, real estate is a very big part of the economy. And if you remove the 1031 exchange, we're going to really impact the economy. People aren't going to be selling as much. They're just going to hold on to their properties.
Mm.
And that to me would devastate our economy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just hate how, you know, for this area, Austin, I hate how we don't have enough law enforcement. We need to hold law enforcement accountable, and then we need more law enforcement per how many citizens we have in this city. The city is growing. We're growing really fast, and even during COVID, we had so many people move here to Austin, in 2020.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing, pertaining to this area. We cannot defund the police like they did. We have to have plenty of police on the ground. Uh, it's just, I agree with some of what um, city council is saying, in that we need to sometimes have mental health care workers. Trust me, as someone who suffered PTSD for years from my attack, I understand that completely. But removing some of our police from the equation is not the answer. If anything, we need to add more to the budget. We need to keep our areas safe. The more police you have, studies show the safer the area is. We don't have anywhere near the amount of police we need here.
Yeah, the amount of road rage that's actually increased because of the lack of police officers on the road has actually grown greatly.
Yeah, and just last week, Austin had hundreds of sex offenders removed from police supervision because of the defunding.
Oof.
Yeah, that's another thing. As someone who has experienced sexual assault, I really, really think rape laws need to be tighter.
All right, we come back from the break. I'm going to ask you about that. What happened with you with the incident, and, how you got to where you are today. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Peace, this is Maj Toure. You're listening to Come and Talk It Radio with Michael Cargill.
Hello, my name is Edwin Walker. I'm an independent program attorney with Texas Law Shield. I want to talk to you today about an issue that we see on a daily basis. In fact, you yourself will encounter it on a daily basis, and that is the subject of road rage. I am sure that you have all seen road rage. You may have actually been involved in a road rage incident. Now, if you're a responsible gun owner, I'm going to give you a few words of advice on how to react when you find yourself in one of these unfortunate road rage incidents. While on the roadways, we all observe something that makes us upset. Whether it's poor driving, unsafe driving, or just simply somebody being very discourteous. By all means, you should restrain yourself from engaging that person and telling them how bad their actions were, because this can be perceived as an act of road rage. If you're a lawful gun owner, you have a firearm in your vehicle, you do not want to be viewed as the aggressor in a road rage situation. Now, with regard to a situation where an individual has chosen to rage against you, and you are the actual victim of the road rage, if you and the other individuals are still in their automobiles, do not use your firearm to respond to any of the rager's activities. This is because law enforcement views the fact that you're both still safely in your metal boxes as removing any threat of immediacy that you may be harmed. So please, if you have a gun, somebody is raging against you, forget you have a gun. Don't display it, don't brandish it, don't show it, don't point it, and for God's sake, don't fire it. This could result in a lot of trouble for you. Now let's look at a situation where a road rage incident has escalated. It has escalated to the point where one of the participants has actually gotten out of their vehicle. We recommend that you stay in your vehicle at all times. Do not exit your vehicle, because the person who exits their vehicle is going to be looked at as the aggressor. If the other individual has exited their vehicle and they are not in contact with your vehicle and they do not have a weapon, then do not feel that you can display your weapon in an act of self-defense. People are allowed to just simply stand there and scream at you, scream whatever they want. Until they make a demonstrative effort to try to harm you, there is no immediate threat that would justify displaying or shooting or brandishing your firearm. Now, in the event that the person shows their own weapon, in particular a firearm, the existence of their weapon would give you...
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back and we're talking about the events around the country when it comes to self-defense. Man, Zach, did you hear about this? There was in New Jersey, this guy apparently was driving a backhoe through homes in the neighborhood and hitting cars and all that good kind of stuff.
He went on a rampage.
Rampage happened on, what is it, Saturday? What was with Saturday? Were the stars aligned in a weird way Saturday? There's a lot going on Saturday.
I know the moon was almost full.
Is that what it was?
Uh-huh.
It was crazy. So a dramatic video was released Thursday. Well, no, I guess Thursday by New Jersey Office of Attorney General shows that the fatal shooting of a 20-year-old man when police officers tried to stop him as he was driving a construction backhoe into cars, homes in the city of Vineland, in New Jersey there. So apparently this guy, and I guess the video just came out where Mr. Joshua Gonzalez there, 20-year-old from Melville, was killed according to the release of the city there. And so when police arrived at the scene, this guy, started hitting police cars. Police officers are running for their life. The neighbors are running for their life. He's, running into other cars. He then starts running into homes, trying to knock the homes down with the backhoe. And eventually they took him out.
Ooh.
That's right. Sometimes you just, sometimes it's just what you have to do.
He never hurt anybody, though.
Yeah, like my great-grandfather used to say, I like to bring everyone to the Lord. And he always had this Bible with him. He said, Michael, I want to bring everyone the Lord. He always had that Bible. He would open up that Bible. In the middle of the Bible there's a hole cut out. He said, Michael, I like to bring everyone the Lord. My great-grandfather reached into that Bible. He would take out this revolver that was in that little hole in that Bible. And he said, when I cannot bring them to the Lord, I'm going to send them to the Lord. And sometimes you got to send them to the Lord. just got it. I'm just keeping it real.
God's going to get you for that.
I mean, he just wrecked a couple of cars and buildings, right? That was it.
He tried to run people over. They're running for their life. You had to stop this guy. And there was no end in sight. So Police officer attempted to stop him for approximately 30 minutes. They're trying to stop this guy. 30 minutes, that's a long time. 30 minutes, he wouldn't stop.
Wow.
During which time Mr. Gonzalez caused extensive damage to several residences and vehicles, including 3 police cars, an ambulance, and an occupied civilian vehicle. So they had to stop this guy. They didn't have a choice.
Why? Why'd they have to stop him? He was just messing with a couple cars, right?
Well, now Jesus will decide. So, we'll see what happens there. And so I want to go back to Jenai. So Jenai.
Yes.
All right. So Jenai is running for Congress, U.S. Congress. And tell me your website.
JenaiForTexas.com.
Okay. And how can we find you? Are you on Twitter, Facebook?
I'm on Twitter, Jenai Aragona.
Nice. All right. And then we can donate?
Yes, through Twitter or WinRed. If you go to WinRed, their website, and put in Jenai for Texas, you can donate through there. And we definitely need to raise some money to market and get my name out there and make a push to win the primary.
And I was telling you the importance of this election because this is the midterm election. This is where typically what happens is, if we do it right, what happens is whoever holds the White House loses either the House or the Senate or both. And so there's an opportunity here. And so we need to get good candidates forward because this is the year what's going to happen. Something's going to happen with AR pistols. Something's going to happen with AK pistols. The ATF is going to come down with a ruling. And if Congress creates a law where they talk about, redoing the definition of machine guns, you can lose a lot of different triggers and things of that nature as well. So this is a really important year. This is the line because we have a lot of court cases that are going forward now that we're going to see some case law that happens within the next 2 years. There's several bump stock cases that are going forward. We're going to see some rulings come down. These cases are going to go to the Supreme Court. And all it takes is for Congress to come back. And Congress says, you know what? We're going to rewrite the law. And we're going to change the definition of what a machine gun is. And then those cases then die. And we're going to lose bump stocks. You lose AR pistols, AK pistols. You're going to lose some of the, some of those little trinkets and things there. And we're going to turn millions of Americans into felons overnight by doing this.
We already lost bump stocks.
Yeah, that's true. That's right. And, man, I tell you, it's just, you got it. We got to stand up. Elections are very important.
Yes.
Elections are important.
With every bump stock came a letter from the ATF. It was a copy of the letter
that said this was
the
legal.
Owner of and the creator of the bump stocks sent a bump stock to the ATF and said, hey, take a look at this. Tell me what you think. ATF wrote him a letter back saying, yes, this does not fit the definition of a machine gun. You are fine. This is a legal product. Everything is fine. And then after that shooting in Vegas, after President Trump wanted them outlawed, basically said, hey, we need to look into these bump stocks. And then the ATF changed their mind and said, oh, okay, well, they're illegal now. Anyone that owns one is a felon. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I tell you, I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose anything, to be honest with you. I don't want to lose, even though bump stock really wasn't a big deal for me, but
that's the principle of it.
Exactly. That's the thing. If you give an inch, then they're going to take a mile, and then we're going to, wake up the next day and look, here we are fighting for, I never thought we'd be fighting for AR pistols, to be able to have an AR pistol. And all it takes is it's going to take them to change their mind. And the way the ATF, the language is written in what they're saying now, you're going to have to register, it's going to be a backdoor registration of your AR pistols. So I'm telling you now, you do not this looks really bad to me. It looks really bad. And also they've come out they've stepped their foot in the door and said, hey, we need to make sure that every gun store, which we're already doing right now, every gun store, you're providing, safes, you're providing locks for people. They're saying now you have to do this. Well, we're already doing this. So why do you tell me I have to do something that I'm already doing? Doesn't make sense at all. So that tells me that they're going to take it a step further.
Mhm.
Something else is going to happen. So this is what they're trying to do, is put gun stores out. If you can shut down some of
Yeah.
the gun stores and force them to close their doors, then
Make
they
it
can.
difficult to purchase.
That's right. So I'm telling you, you got to wake up. And this election is very important. This is going to be the key. This is going to be where the pendulum is swing either to the left or to the right. This is a very important election here, this midterm. Very important.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad you're running.
Yeah.
I'm glad,
As you
Jenai,
know,
that you're running.
I will always be pro Second Amendment based on my own personal experience.
Yeah.
that I
And,
have.
and and you're doing good with real estate.
I'm doing fantastic.
Doing good with that.
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. You've done great as a small business owner.
Yes,
starting a business from scratch.
I've done it multiple times, and
Different
been,
businesses.
Yep, been successful at it, and I just in real estate did the same thing. In 3 years, I have my own team, and I've done more deals than what the average person that's been doing real estate does in 10 years. So I'm doing quite well.
Now, Jenai, there was a story. There's something that happened with you that was a personal story.
Yes.
I want you to tell me, a little bit about that story, because that shaped you into the person that you are today.
Correct. Yeah. I've had a few. My sister was raped and murdered in North Carolina in 1991. And I moved to Texas in 1987 from North Carolina. But in 1994, I didn't know I had a stalker. And one morning, I woke up with a stranger sitting down next to my bed staring at me, who proceeded to try to rape me. And I fought for my life for 30 minutes,
That's a
being
long
strangled. Yeah, I know,
That's a
because
long
there was a
time.
clock in the room. I distinctly recall.
That's a long time.
I finally escaped after almost biting his finger off while he was strangling me. But I bought my first gun after that. And I have been a very big proponent of the Second Amendment ever since then. And come to find out, the person that attacked me was illegal in this country as well.
Mm.
So I am definitely for having a border wall and protecting our border. That happened to me on the border when I was living in McAllen. I lived there for about 20 years.
Mm.
And so those things, they definitely shape me. I'm not a cynical person, but I understand that, we need to protect ourselves. There are some people that will try to do harm to us, and we should have that right. And that right needs to be kept sacred, and it should never be taken away. And I would never allow that.
All right, we come back from the break. Someone's asking school choice. What's your stance on school choice? And someone's asking you also to define 1031, what that is. When we come back from the break, I'm going to ask you to talk about that, school choice and 1031. We're talking with Jenai Aragona. She's running for U.S. Congress. I'm excited about this, U.S. Congress, because we need our voice. We need to stand up and fight. We got to make sure that someone's going to speak for us when it comes to D.C. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Folks, this is Doug Man Jones. And I get my gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk It.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, we're going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. but I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were complying with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, we're talking about self-defense situations all around the country here. We're talking about shootings. We're talking about, good things and bad things that have happened. We're trying to educate you on the law, trying to make sure that whenever something happens, you don't have that bad interaction with law enforcement. How you should conduct yourself, what you should do after you're involved in a shooting. I want to talk about all that stuff. And here now, what I want to talk about is what you should not do. Here's what you should not do. A wife of Ohio man killed by an officer during New Year's ritual says cop shot without warning through their fence. Let me tell you something. I don't even know where to start with this, Zach.
Where are you going to start with this?
Where do I start with this? Okay. Because the widow of an Ohio man shot and killed by a police officer on New Year's Eve day once justice after she said her husband was gunned down. He was gunned down without warning during their annual celebratory gunfire ritual as the calendar turned over to the next year. Are you freaking crazy? Who goes outside and fires an AR-15 in the air?
A bunch of people in that neighborhood, according to the wife.
And it's a ritual. Are you people nuts?
Yeah.
That is crazy.
I guess they don't realize that bullet goes up and then it comes back down.
And if you're at an angle, it's traveling miles. Before it comes out and hits something. That's insane.
Get her done.
You don't do that. Don't do that. You do not fire rounds in the air. You cannot do warning shots. Just like you can't shoot trespassers. You can't go outside of New Year's, Christmas Eve, 4th of July and fire rounds in the air. I don't care who does it. I don't care if, John, Jojo, Momo, Billy Bob does it next door. That is not a good thing.
That's what rednecks do.
He just can't do it. He just cannot do it. I'm telling you. So this couple here, let me see, what are their names? Marguerite Williams and her husband.
Marquetta Williams.
Is it Marquetta?
Marquetta.
Marquetta Williams and her husband, decided to go outside, their backyard there, and fire rounds in the air. So the woman told the newspaper that her husband, James Williams, had been firing off celebratory gunshots with his AR-15 skyward into the air in their backyard, a tradition for people in their neighborhood. I don't want any of the water any of you fools are drinking. That is crazy. You don't do that. I don't even know what to say to that.
They did that, though.
It's not okay, people. It's not okay. How do you not know that's not okay? I don't get it. How do you not know that?
Those are negligent discharges, right?
Oh my goodness. If you do that in Texas, you're talking about, aggravated assault, deadly conduct. You're talking felony, 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 felony. You do not do that. You don't fire rounds in the air. You don't fire warning shots. None of that stuff. Her husband fired 4 shots in the air total. And according to Marquetta Williams, is what she says. When he turned around to follow his wife back into the house, where she had been standing only a foot away, he said, "I've been shot." Well, of course, you fire rounds in the air. and let's roll this video. Take a look at this.
Shots fired. Shots fired. Police, get down now! Police, get down now! Can't come. Shots fired. Send us everybody.
It looked like that cop just shot through the fence. Is that right?
Yeah, he unloaded.
He just shot through the fence, not knowing what's on the other side.
Not even know what he was doing.
Oh, wow. This whole situation is just madness.
Bad. Bad on both sides. He's firing, idiot number 1's firing rounds in the air. Idiot number 2's response to the scene, he's firing, he don't know what's on the other side of the fence. Jeez. Bad and bad. Both of you are idiots. Both complete idiots there. This is just crazy. Whatever they're drinking, whatever the water is in that system, in that area, that part of, what is this, Ohio? I want to make sure I don't drink anything or eat any food in that area. I like to fly straight through, please. Bypass these idiots, because you people are all stupid.
Yeah, Gary's told me some stories about Ohio folks.
Yeah. The men from Ohio are definitely some dumb folks. Let me tell you.
But not Gary. Gary's very smart and great. He's the best. Ask anyone. Everyone agrees. Except for Casey.
If you say so. If you say so. I'm telling you. This story is wild here. So out of the blue, he said he got shot. He got hit. Williams explained, "I don't know where it came from. Nobody said anything. They didn't say police.
Shot through the
They didn't say freeze. They didn't say they just drop your weapon. They just shot him. I could see blood splattering across the everywhere there. So it's just good gracious. I don't even know what to say to that.
Surprised she didn't get shot too.
Yeah, you're very lucky. Yeah, got to know what your threat is and what's behind that threat. If you're going to respond to something like that, make sure you can see that threat and stop that threat. Don't blindly fire through a fence. You can't see what's going on.
Don't blindly just fire into the sky.
And don't just fire into the sky. My goodness. I love this story that I'm reading, because it just has, pizza on the side. It's just making me hungry. It's a sign there. That's all I see is pizza. It's like, oh man, delicious. All right, so Jenai.
Yes.
All right, so once again, I want you to tell us your website there.
Jenai for Texas.
Jenai for Texas. We need to make sure that we support Jenai. Want to definitely go to her website and donate to her campaign. We got to support our candidates. To make sure that our candidates going forward are going to speak for us and have our voice in D.C. We're talking U.S. Congress here. We're talking Washington D.C. This is a very important election. Very important. This is it. This is the last stand here. This midterm election is going to be so important because so many things are going to come out. We're going to have so many different cases that are going to court right now. They're going to the the federal level. They're going to the Court of Appeals, and they're going to make their way to the Supreme Court. And then here's why it's important, because your appellate courts, what they're doing is they're sending letters to Congress and said, hey, Congress, here's what we thought about, this particular portion of the law. And this is how it's probably going to come out. Like for bump stocks, the court in New Orleans actually said, you know what? We actually agree that Michael Cargill is correct. They didn't actually say this, but in so many words, here's what they said. Without saying it, you say I'm right without saying I'm right. In so many words, they're like, hey, Michael Cargill is right. The definition of machine gun in the ATF's interpretation is not correct. So bump stocks really should be legal. They're not machine gun. It's a piece. But, we're gonna deny, what he's saying. We're gonna send it back down or to the lower court, or he's gonna have to request en banc for this case to be heard before the entire Fifth Circuit. And then the Fifth Circuit will hear this case, and then possibly this case will go to the Supreme Court. We'll see what happens there. They sent a letter to Congress saying, Congress, take a look at this portion of the law, and you need to rewrite the law. So they're asking Congress to rewrite the definition of machine gun. Let me say that again. The Fifth Circuit sent a letter from my case, Michael Cargill versus the Department of Justice versus this current administration. When it comes to bump stocks, they sent a letter to Congress asking Congress to rewrite the definition of bump stock in law. And if we're not paying attention, this next Congress will decide to either rewrite the law or keep it the same. This election is very important. You're going to lose some rights if you're not paying attention. So wake up and smell the coffee. This is serious. I'm sounding the alarm here. I'm ringing the bell. I get people from time after time will come to me and they say, Michael, what can I do, to help the cause? What can I do, to stand up for our rights? Here's your calling. I'm ringing the bell. I'm sounding the alarm. This is a time right now to support a candidate that's going to help us, to keep what we have. If you do not stand up and fight now, you're gonna lose. First they came for this, no one said anything. Then they came for the next thing, no one said anything there. And then now, guess what? They're gonna come for the next thing, and then by that time it's too late. It's gonna be too late. So now's the time. Stand up and do something now. And don't be like these people in Ohio. we fire rounds in the air. Oh my goodness. Ohio, come on, get that stuff together, Ohio. We can do better. Be best. Definitely be better. All right, so I also want to talk about the Rust armorer, in the shooting there with Alec Baldwin.
Oh yeah, he finally turned over his cell phone, right?
Yeah. Did he?
I think so.
Oh,
I read
Alec.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. You're right. He finally turned over the cell phone there. Said, okay. Here's my cell phone. And
now the armorer is actually trying to shift the blame, pass the buck.
What?
Onto the ammo manufacturers.
Okay, why are they responsible?
The same reason that Alec Baldwin is not responsible, right? Because he doesn't want to be. And he blames the armorer. The armorer doesn't want to be responsible.
I
so
think
they
he's
blame
responsible.
the manufacturer.
Of course
he's the one with the gun in his hand.
Yeah, and I'm sure they were actually firing the gun at the gun range. They were probably practicing with this gun, and they mixed the ammunition in the box themselves.
Yeah.
It's
they
negligent.
were training. Was it the day before or the morning of?
Yeah.
With live rounds in those guns.
Completely negligent. And
But
why would you do that?
Didn't the girl, the trainer, isn't she suing him too? Because she said that she tried to train him and he never showed up. There's a lawsuit.
Well, he's the executive producer, and as the executive producer, the buck stops with you.
Yeah.
When it comes to movies.
He's so arrogant. That interview I saw where he said, somebody was responsible, but not me. It's like, you had the gun.
You're the actor with the gun in your hand. You're the executive producer. He's going to be responsible.
I mean, at least some.
Oh,
but
a
to
lot.
say, I know, I agree. But for him to say, not at all, wow, I'm not surprised him, right? I'm not surprised.
As someone says, stupid is as stupid does.
Has anybody heard the voicemail he left for his daughter? back in the day?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's
yeah.
definitely got an anger problem.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. His daughter sitting back going, huh? See, I told you guys.
Right.
Got this saved on my phone.
That's right. She released that. That's right. The daughter released that video.
Ooh, his
that
own
audio.
daughter.
Oh, wow. Your daughter don't even like you. That's how miserable person that is. Your kids don't even like you. You know you're rotten to the core.
He hated Trump, too.
Oh, I know. That's why I think it's kind of
I'm
funny.
surprised Trump hasn't come out and said
I'm
something.
surprised Trump hasn't commented about that.
I haven't heard anything. He probably did. We just haven't heard it. But, oh, man, that's got to be hilarious. I know he's sitting back going, ha-ha. All right, let's see a
Apparently
Saturday night.
He did a rally yesterday in Arizona, right? But Fox didn't cover it. They were covering the hostage situation. But apparently it was a record-setting amount of people that went.
Oh, yeah, they're trying to be like,
Newsmax carried it. You can. I want to watch it. You can see it on Newsmax, I think.
trying to pretend like nothing's going on, nothing's happening.
I said he's going to
Dish
run.
Network just dropped OAN as one of their channels.
Oh, really?
Once their contract ends, they're not going to keep them on.
Wow.
Oh, wow. All right, we come back. We're going to talk about smart guns, going to talk about Rittenhouse gun purchaser. Ooh, and talk about that. You know, straw purchase, what is that? You need to know what that is. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Hi, this is Stephen Williford, the Barefoot Defender. I get my global gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk It.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings because you're not in custody. If you're put in handcuffs but you say something incriminating on your own without being questioned, those statements can and will be used against you because you're not being interrogated. You're just starting to spout off. This is why it's imperative that you know your rights and you shouldn't rely on the police to read them to you. Affirmatively invoke your rights. Say, I'm invoking my right to remain silent and my right to my attorney. Once you do that, the police legally shouldn't continue questioning you without your attorney present. But remember, there's a second part to this equation. After invoking your rights, you must exercise those rights. That means you have to keep your mouth closed. Protect yourself. Don't let the legal system take advantage of you after an incident. And Law Shield members, if you've been involved in a self-defense incident, remember to call the emergency hotline and speak with your independent program attorney.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back and we're talking about current events around the country here. We're talking about, smart guns. Smart guns finally arrived in the U.S. is what they're saying. So NBC News ran a story. They're talking about these smart guns. And we're talking about smart guns. Here's what we're saying. So basically, the gun knowing that gun is unique to that user. Which gun?
I'm just looking forward into the future with smart guns. So
it's going to be the way of the future.
Yeah, a smart gun.
Got to embrace it.
They can only be fired by verified users, right? And these are undoubtedly going to be connected wirelessly to the Internet of Things, and they're going to be in the system.
And
okay?
I'm a skeptic.
Yeah. What if you're all of a sudden decided that you are no longer a verified user?
They're doing, Dave.
Yeah, you ever seen what's that movie? Judge Dredd?
Yes.
So his gun basically was a smart gun, right? And the criminal tried to shoot it, and he couldn't. Only Judge Dredd could shoot his gun, right? And so they can just decide at any time that your gun is not able to be shot by you.
Ooh. Ooh, they can turn it off.
Yeah, they could turn your gun off if they want.
Ooh.
Oh, police are coming to your house. They're here to issue a warrant.
They turn your gun off.
Turn off his gun first.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Hey, you know what? And I know when I grab my cell phone, and you know how you use your thumbprint, your fingerprint to access your phone.
Does it work the time when you
No,
do it?
it does not.
No.
It does not work. So I turned it off because I got so frustrated because it wasn't working all the time. And then even when I go to put my code in, if I type too quick, it doesn't register, and I have to do it. Sometimes I have to do it like 3 times before I can get the code right
Yeah,
to get into my phone.
Mess it up a few times in a row before.
Yeah. It's like I'm not hitting it right. It's not the right angle or something like that. I'm like, man, I don't want that. I don't want to be in that situation where I have to use a firearm for self-defense and I can't get it to go green or get it to work. I have nightmares about that. Grabbing a firearm, needing to use it for self-defense, and pulling the trigger, and nothing happens. That's a nightmare. I'm telling you right now. So these personalized smart guns, which can be fired only by verified users, may finally become available in the U.S., according to some consumers there. After 2 decades of questions about reliability and concerns, they will usher in a new wave of government regulation. Ooh, I'm excited about that. Not. A 4-year-old Lodestar Works on Friday unveiled its 9mm smart handgun for shellholders and investors in Boise, Idaho. And a Kansas company, Smart Guns LLC, says law enforcement agents are beta testing its product, a similar but simpler model. Both companies hope to have a product commercially available this year. So we'll see, what comes of that. Like I said, I'm very skeptical because I know when I need something, really quick, I'm trying to get access to something, that thumbprint sometimes doesn't work, or that code, I'm doing it, a certain kind of way on my phone. Sometimes it doesn't work. I'm kind of worried about that.
I want no part of that.
And I definitely don't want someone else to be able to control that, and keep me from getting access to it.
Because it's not going to be a dumb smart gun.
Right.
It's going to have some sort of connectivity to the mesh network.
Right? A dumb smart gun or a smart gun? Oh, my goodness. And the Cal Rittenhouse gun purchase. People were talking about that this week. So the guy that bought the gun for Kyle Rittenhouse finally he had a plea deal. He made a plea deal. The Wisconsin man who purchased the AR-15 style rifle for Kyle Rittenhouse finally, he was actually faced with a felony. Because I don't know if you know this. If you walk into a gun store and you buy a gun for someone, knowing that person cannot pass the background check, cannot actually walk out the gun store with that firearm, you're committing a felony, which is a straw purchase. You're buying a gun for someone else knowing that they cannot buy it. Now, there's a fine line between that because people say, okay, well, Michael, what if I want to buy, my brother, my son, or buy my friend a gift? You can buy someone a gift, but you can give someone a gift. But what you cannot do is you cannot walk to the gun store knowingly walk to the gun store and buy a gun knowing that that person cannot take possession of the firearm.
So you can buy it just fine for a person that
as a gift
you don't know cannot take possession of it. Is that correct?
It's a weird
or is
weird
that
line
still a
there.
straw purchase? If someone wanted to buy a gun for their friend and they bought it with the intention of giving it to them, even if they have a free and clear background check, can they still do that or no? Or is that still a straw purchase?
It's a fine line there because the very one of the first questions that you're going to have to answer says, hey, are you the actual transferee buyer of the firearm listed on this form and any continuation sheet? So warning, if you are not the actual transferee or buyer, if you are requiring the firearm on behalf of another person, if you are not the actual transferee or buyer, the licensee cannot transfer the firearm to you. Exceptions: if you are only picking up a repaired firearm for another person, you are not required to answer 21A and may proceed to 21B. So if it's like a gunsmithing, you don't have to answer 21A. You can skip 21A and just go to 21B if you're picking up a gun for someone else for gunsmithing. But all that's going to be up to the gun store. The gun store can say, yeah, no, we don't want to, do that. We want the person that dropped off the gun for gunsmithing come in to pick it up. So it's kind of tricky in there. Kind of tricky. What do you think?
I mean, it's all about intent then, right?
Yeah. And the laws are really funny because if you're in Texas, because we border Mexico, and you walk to the gun store and you purchase 2 handguns in a 5-day period, 2 long guns in a 5-day period, that gun store has a report. You fill out a form and fax it in that day to the FBI and the chief law enforcement officer in the county that you live in.
What about 1 handgun and 1 long gun?
No, they don't.
Those criteria?
No paperwork. No
Oh,
paperwork.
okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so, and here's the kicker too. If the gun store has a manufacturer's license, a manufacturer's FFL, they don't have to report long gun sales. So, for example, we have a manufacturer's license, so we don't report long gun sales. So we only report handgun sales.
You mean 2 long gun sales?
We don't report those.
Oh, but you
because we have a manufacturer's FFL, Federal Firearms License.
Okay.
So we only report the handgun sales. And we can't tell you that when you walk into the gun store, because then we're obstructing justice, apparently. So we can't warn you and educate you about that. So that's kind of how that works. Yeah. What do you think about that? A little tricky about the gun laws. Very tricky.
A little tricky.
All right. I want to thank Jenai Aragona for coming in and telling us about her running for Congress, U.S. Congress. All right. So hopefully some people go to the website there, donate to the campaign. I'm looking forward to block walking for you, looking forward to supporting you.
Thank you.
Because this midterm election is very important. We've got to make sure that our voices are heard and that, it's D.C., it's Washington, D.C., it's the swamp. We need to send people to D.C. that's going to fight for us. As always, more guns equals less crime. You go out there and you buy yourself a gun. You've been listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.